Hi, everybody. So I wanted to talk today about divine timing. Divine timing is often seen in our lives. I mean, it's seen honestly in an infinite number of ways, is what I'm going to talk about. But a lot of times we recognize it when we call someone and they're like, oh, I was just thinking about you, or vice versa. Or a lot of times people see numbers and stuff and let that really influence their experience of the world. And I wanted to talk about how divine timing is kind of something that's happening all the time. And it's not something that you really have to look for. It's something that once you recognize, you realize that you're always seeing it. That these things that come up in our life that seem like tests or obstacles are often lessons. We'll see that after the fact about how we were living in a way that wasn't truly serving us. Divine timing lets you tap into the divine. Like that's should be, I think, a real aspect of it. It lets you see that in this world of dual nature, of apparent duality, there is still a chance to touch into something that is real, something that is not temporary, right? When we're living in time, when we're living in this idea of the world around us and its value and how these things can fulfill us, we start to attach ourselves to things that are temporary, impermanent. We recognize this right away. Obviously, things don't last forever. But even knowing that, it's so easy to then just reattach yourself to this idea of who you are. And when you're able to step outside of time, step into divine time, into the moment that is here right now, you could access it through any method. Like I was saying, some basic easy ones are like looking for that moment in between breaths. But when you can step out into that, you can see that your situation and yourself are probably not necessarily what they want them to be. To really get to this point, you have to make space for it. Talking about a small technique, anything is a technique is the real problem. Sometimes we get very attached and put a lot of belief into a specific technique, and that actually helps us to maybe see it. But sometimes the attachment to any technique is so strong that you have to eventually realize, no matter what, that you can find this divine timing anywhere. When you make space for it, you can step back, you can see yourself, you can see your situation, you can see what direction you're headed, and you realize that you can also somewhat choose that direction. You look around you and you see yourself in situations and what you should see, well, maybe not what should, but what is helpful to see is your good and bad projections, the things that you are giving out to the world. When you look at people and they're saying something that you find to be bright and inspiring, it's a wonderful thing to offer that to another person. But you should also recognize that that bright, inspiring feeling isn't coming because you're seeing them, it's rising up from inside of you. It's a natural part of your own being. And you can, so to say, take back your power in that way and and feel good for that. And also recognize that that person can still hold that or reflect that for you. And if you see someone and you are full of judgment and full of thoughts about how they aren't living their life, the way that they should be or whatever, to use that word should in a reason why I wouldn't want to necessarily like to use that word, you can recognize that these judgments that you're giving them are ways that you are sending out bad projections, that you aren't dealing with aspects of your own being, that you're not honestly taking a step out in that moment, that you're still trapped in the narratives. When you're free from time, you're free from all these narratives, and you could kind of see the story still playing out, but you're no longer so entangled in it. And you can just accept situations the way that they are and and meet them as they come to you. That's the wonderful thing about this idea of divine timing and not trying to search it out, but just to step into it, is that when it becomes a lived experience, a lived reality, a reality where awareness transcends the good and the bad, where all of everything that comes to you seems to be more and more one thing, is that you get this sense of direction. At first, you realize when you step out and see your situation that you can take direction, but when you really step out, like even further from, like, you keep disidentifying with those narratives, you come to a place where the story is laid out in front of you. And it's less of a story and more of just a path you're walking. You can see that your entire life, this self has been calling out, hidden in every single moment. And it's incredible. And you start to live in a place where once you know that, and even if your situation calls for being in an amount of pain or learning lessons that are finishing their part in your life, even when you're in those situations, you learn that you can. One of the ways I've heard it best is Sadhguru talks about changing the channel. You can change the channel. You can experience the same thing, but from a completely different perspective, where all you see is divinity, and you're able to even disidentify from that. It leads to a place that is definitely ineffable, unspeakable. You know, words have their limitations, but is, I mean, profound is a good word. So yeah, tap into that divine moment, which is here for you at all times, is the message of this video. And I hope that we all can do that together. All right. Sending love.